Wat kan er gebeurd zijn?
Ja, nou, dat vind ik eigenlijk een vraag waarvan dat ik liever niet op speculeer. Er kan van alles gebeurd zijn. En er is blijkbaar iets gebeurd, anders waren ze niet weg. En en er is iets gebeurd wat niet goed is. En of het dan een verdwaald is of een ongeluk of weet ik veel. Dat kan van alles zijn.
On March 15th, 2014, a 22-year-old Lisanne Froon and a 21-year-old Kris Kremers, both from the Netherlands, arrived in Panama. The two Dutch women saved up their money for 6 months to afford a 6-week-long stay in Panama. Lisanne and Kris had plans to learn to speak Spanish, explore the culture, and volunteer with young children. This trip to Panama was supposed to be a trip of a lifetime. The first 2 weeks of the trip, Lisanne and Kris visited all of the popular tourist spots throughout Panama. On March 29th, 2014, they moved into their host family's home in the city of Boguet. They were trying to spend the rest of their trip volunteering at a local school. On April 1st, 2014, Lisanne and Kris, along with their host's dog, Azul, embarked on a hike along the Penistid Trail. This was an area near Baru volcano and the Continental Divide. The hike was supposed to take them around 4 hours to complete and was approximately 4 kilometers long. Later that evening, Azul, the family dog, returned to Boguet, but without Lisanne and Kris. The following morning, on April 2nd, 2014, Lisanne and Kris missed an appointment with the local tour guide. Once the host family learned that the missing appointment was happening, they reported the girls missing to the National System of Civil Protection. At first, the NSCP didn't take the report seriously and wouldn't get involved in the case for nearly 4 days. Lisanne and Kris's parents became worried when they hadn't heard anything from their daughters in over 2 days. This was unusual because both girls regularly texted their parents about their time and whereabouts in Panama. By April 3rd, the locals organized aerial and ground searches of the trail they believed Lisanne and Kris took. A couple of days later, still no signs of the girls. Lisanne and Kris's parents arrived in Panama to help look for them. Along with the parents arrived Dutch authorities and investigators to assist in the case. Dutch authorities brought tracker dogs to help them locate the missing girls. The dogs were trained to detect scent for up to 9 days, but the dogs didn't turn up any leads or clues. After 5 days of searching of Lisanne and Kris, a $30,000 reward was offered for anyone with information into their disappearance. A Dutch investigator also came forward and made a public statement. The women could not have simply disappeared from the trail. This was the first time the theory of foul play was suspected. Weeks passed with no signs of Lisanne and Kris. Investigators and search and rescue did not find any sign of property belongings to the girls out there in the Panama jungle. However, 10 weeks later, after the girls' disappearance, a woman recovered and turned over to the police Lisanne's backpack. It was found floating along a riverbank. Inside the backpack, there were $83 in cash, Lisanne's passport, a water bottle, a digital camera, 2 bras, and 2 cell phones. All of them were recovered in the backpack with neatly packed, dry, and in perfect condition. A forensic search of the cell phones of Kris's and Lisanne's phones revealed that the girls attempted to call 112, the initial emergency number, and 911, the emergency number of Panama, the beginning of April 1st, the day they left on their hike. Over the next few days, there were numerous calls placed to emergency services. Due to poor reception in the jungle, only 1 call was believed to have been connected, which was only for 1 second. Between April 7th and April 10th, there were more than 77 failed attempts to access Kris's iPhone. On April 11th, there was 1 final signal check before the cell phone's battery died. After this final signal check, nearly 11 days after the girls went missing, there was no further cell phone activity on either of their phones. Inside Lisanne's backpack was also a digital camera. The camera contained 100 photos taken while the girls were lost. Of these 100 photos, 10 photos were taken during the daytime of April 1st. The next photos on the camera, 90 photos in total, were taken during the nighttime between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., 7 days after the girls went missing. Most of the images are blurry and just appear to be camera flash. Some of the photos appear to be of trash, one picture of a toilet paper, and one seemed to be of a back of Kris's head. There was one photo missing, a photo that was deleted off the camera. The file names of the camera were numbered, beginning with the image number 499. The next image number was 500 and so on. Image number 509 was missing, deleted from the camera. The photo was not deleted on the digital camera itself. It was deleted some other way. Kris's denim shorts were also reportedly found zipped and neatly folded on a rock near the location of Lisanne's backpack where it was discovered. 2 months after the discovery of the backpack, a pelvis bone and a hiking boot containing a human foot were recovered. The pelvis bone and the foot were sent through DNA testing and identified as Lisanne. Soon after, more than 30 widely scattered human bones were found in the surrounding area. DNA tests conclusively identified the human remains as one of the missing girls. Among the scattered bones, investigators also located remains of 3 unknown people, in addition to Lisanne and Kris. Lisanne's bones and skeletal remains appeared like they had natural decomposed based on the discovery of small amounts of flesh attached to the bone. Kris's remains, on the other hand, appeared to have been bleached. They also detected the presence of phosphorus on her bone. Because they were unable to recover any large remains of either girls, forensic scientists were unable to determine a cause of manner or death. Authorities officially ruled Lisanne and Kris's death a hiking accident. However, their mysterious deaths have left many questions in this theory. A jaguar or a cougar attack does have sense with some of the discoveries. The 90 photos being taken with the flash on could have been the attempt of scaring animal away. It also explained the boot found with the foot bones still inside, but with no other body parts. There are also birds in that area of that world that have fed on carrion and would have disturbed the bones in any way. However, the remains that were found show no signs of big cat teeth marks or any other damage that supports this idea. Another theory is that the girls simply got lost, or one fell down a cliff and the others tried to go down and rescue the other. The terrain can be extremely dangerous in Alpinista, and it is certainly believed that things could have gone wrong very quickly. If Lisanne had Kris's phone, it perhaps explained the failed attempt to unlock it. Could she have been trying to leave a goodbye message for their family and friends? Some people think that they were being followed, and this is the reason for those emergency phone calls on April 1st, which was not an accident. A lot of the terrain is very dense woodland and would require a lot of climbing and hard work to walk through, which brings the idea of them getting lost into question. They could have been forced off the trails by someone else, however. We can only speculate on what their intentions may have been. It seems unlikely that the girls were kidnapped because they had their phones and were attempting emergency calls for days after their disappearance. Which leads on to the possibilities that they were murdered, perhaps by an indigenous tribe they came across by accident. This is certainly supported by the bones found belongings to 3 other people and the lack remains found from the girls. No large bones or substance remains were ever found. If they had died as a result of an accident, the majority of their belongings and remains would have been relatively close together, not spread miles across the terrain. This is the theory that makes the most sense to me. They were almost certainly murdered by someone, but an indigenous tribe doesn't explain the missing photo. An alternative idea is that they were murdered by someone they met in town. Some of the locals believe this theory and are suspicious of the local tour guide of Felicio, Those cabins have half a mile from where the remains were finally found. He seemed to be a little too successful in finding remains in the dense forest when others were unable to find anything. One of the girls wrote in a diary that he made them uncomfortable, and he'd invite them to stay overnight in his cabin. There are also several reviews online from women who have hired him who felt uncomfortable or unsafe in his company, according to Quora.com. It's unclear if his property was ever searched. One thing is for certain: tourism is a huge provider in Panama, and the authorities have been accused of brushing off this case so as to not scare potential visitors. It has been said that they didn't thoroughly investigate the murder theory, and they didn't follow prosecution when handling evidence and were not proactive with talking to witnesses. Many of the locals are also adamant that the authorities didn't properly start looking until April 6th, the same day the families flew in from the Netherlands. None of the theories quite answer all the questions, however, and we may never know what really happened to Kris and Lisanne. It is a real tragedy that these two young women didn't return from their hike. There is so much more in this case that could easily fill a book, perhaps two, if you include more information on the local culture and surroundings. I have tried condensedly on while hitting the main points, but understand that this video is only a brief summary.